Hello you lovely Mario Maker person, my name is Ceave and welcome back. There are tons and tons and tons of different little tricks, tips and ideas hidden in the wonderful game that Super Mario Maker is. But not all of them are huge, inspiring ideas, but rather some small, neat touches or tricks to improve your stages. So today we're going to take a super fast look on 40 smaller but hopefully equally useful ideas. So you ready? Let's do this! Our first idea starts by trapping Mario in the middle of 3 cannons. This loads the munchers at the bottom in a specific order and creates a great wave effect. Once Mario drops down, things become serious for a small plumber. Now he has to make his way through this waving floor, while he has to avoid to touch the dangerous saw blades. Wow, that was really dangerous for Mario. We should better reward him. Here we stack 5 question blocks on top of each other in order to create a single super rewarding question block. By jumping towards this block, Mario frees a 1-up, a leaf, a mushroom, a shell and a star. It looks like Mario likes this kind of block. Sadly for a plumber, the next idea is no rewarding one, but a sadistic trap Bowser created. There is a P-switch skewer timer to the right and Mario has to survive until the timer expires. Sadly for him, that's no easy task as there are hungry chain jumps on tracks, which try to consume him. Mario's best chance to survive here is to focus on the chains and to position himself in a way that avoids getting bitten. Here we use spike tops and ground tiles to create a small but interesting challenge for our plumber. Mario has to sprint through this part in order to escape, but he needs to time his running carefully in order to not run into any beetle. Here we use POW blocks on tracks to create a really interesting saw blade obstacle. It's possible for a plumber to walk on top of POW blocks, but he needs to be careful not to touch the sharp and deadly blade below them. The same trick can be used the other way around. Here Mario has to jump on the bumper in order to reach the area to the right, but he needs to time his bumping carefully as the POW blocks try to push him off the bumper and prevent bumping in general. Against all the laws of physics, Mario is able to slow his falling speed down by performing a series of ground pounds in mid-air. We use this here to create a small queso challenge. If Mario falls down too fast here, he burns to death because of the lava bubble, but if he slows down his fall too much, he burns to death as well. Only the right amount of mid-air ground pounding allows him to survive this. This idea features a neat little mechanic. If Mario is wearing a Buzzy Beetle helmet, he's able to push enemies off rails. We use this here to create a mini puzzle. Mario needs to bump his head towards this Goomba to release him out of his rail prison. Once the Goomba walks around like he's supposed to do, Mario only needs to bump him to the right so that he activates the P-switch and Mario is finally able to escape. Most people know this by now, but for those who missed it, dry bones transform into horrible homing terror fishes if placed underwater and can be used to make Mario's life harder and your underwater stages more interesting. Here we have a small minigame that starts with a wiggler trigger. Mario finds himself in the middle of a really weird underground spaceship. Nobody knows why this awkward spaceship exists. Maybe it was a prototype for Bowser's Space Base, or maybe I just recorded it in the wrong game theme. We don't know, but what we do know is that Mario is able to escape this idea. And now, let's take a look on some ideas that are a little bit crazy, not super useful, but hopefully fun to watch. Here Mario is trapped in a terrifying room. Everything bounces around and tries to push him away. If Mario wants to end this bouncy nightmare, he needs to grab one of the springs and throw it towards the muncher in the middle, as this activates a P-switch and allows him to bounce his way out. Here Mario needs to take a ship to reach the other side of the stage. Sadly for him, the ship is no ordinary ship, but entirely made out of cannonballs, which makes this voyage really dangerous for him. If Mario is trapped in between bouncers, he's usually not able to escape, but thanks to some glitchy movement, it's still possible for Mario to glitch his way out of such a trap. Wow. Bowser did some really nasty things to Mario in the past, but this room is probably the worst thing he has ever done. But it looks like Mario is ready to take revenge. Here our plumber trapped some of Bowser's soldiers on top of a spring, which seems to really stress them out. Sadly, this isn't really useful, except for decoration purposes. Here we put some bullet blasters on top of a spring, but blocked them by a one-way door. This seems to really confuse these poor blasters, as they seem to don't know whether to jump around or to stand still, which creates a really wobbling floor. Here Mario stands on top of a skull raft tower. While he slowly drops down, he activates all the skeleton roller coasters which he needs to climb back to the top again, once he reaches the bottom. This would be really useful if it wouldn't take forever to load all the skull rafts, but once all the rafts are in place, Mario can climb back upwards. But he has to be careful, as the walls are made out of ouchy spikes. Okay, back to actually useful ideas. Here we abuse the fact that Mario can't travel through P-switches from below to create a shortcut mechanic. Once Mario walked over the P-switches, they magically disappear and open up a shortcut. If Mario now fails to perform the jump from before, he can easily reach the area where he just was again. Here Mario has to survive again until the timer expires, but this time the timer is really unique and part of the threat. Mario not only needs to dodge the lava bubbles, but the jumping munchers as well. If we stack winged munchers on top of each other, they jump a little bit higher every time. We use this to create our timer, as there is a POW block on top of the muncher tower, and after a while they jump so high that the POW block gets triggered by a shell at the top. Here we have a really interesting mechanic featuring tracks. If we build a tower out of diagonal tracks, they will lift every item upwards, which enters them vertically. But this is a little bit slower than a normal vertical track would be. To survive this idea, Mario has to survive in this room until the skewer to the left opens up the exit. While this room starts pretty peaceful at first, it soon becomes really dangerous. Mario has to dodge terrifying jet engines here, which spit out fire in all 4 directions. This works because we stack the jet engines on tracks on top of each other in the same way we stacked the super rewarding question block before. I guess Mario preferred the question block over this. Here we have a short but interesting wall jump challenge for Mario. All he has to do is to reach the bottom of this area alive, but there are muggy Koopas shooting horrible magic missiles towards him. To make matters worse, the bullet blaster walls move as they are carried by brave Koopas. This idea features a really tricky spin jump on top of a moving spiked helmet. Our small Italian jump and runner has to spin really careful here, as the shell is extremely easy to miss. Here we use winged Buzzy Beetles on tracks to create a tricky timing challenge for Mario. Our plumber has to climb to the top of this small little tower, but there are these Buzzy Beetle trains which try to kill him. But Mario has already survived 22 horrible ideas today, and these Buzzy Beetles won't stop him either. And now, let's take a look on 5 ideas not created to kill Mario, but to decorate the dangerous areas where Bowser tries to get rid of our plumber. Arrow signs can be used for a lot of decoration purposes in general. Here we use them to visually connect these ice block platforms. In this area there seems to be an earthquake or something, as there are dust clouds rising from the bottom, which shake the screen a little bit as soon as they reach the surface. This effect can be easily created by placing Monty moles below solid blocks. As soon as Mario comes close, the moles will try to leave the ground, but once they hit a solid surface, they shake the screen and die. Here we use a couple of tricks to make vines look visually more appealing. There are tracks on top of the vines hiding a part of them. Additionally, there are semi-solid platforms and mushroom platforms in the background to add a little bit of variety. Sadly for Mario, this idea isn't visually only, as there are still cannons which try to shoot him off the beautiful vines. Luckily for Mario, the next idea is completely safe. Blue platforms can not only be used to create tricky platforming challenges, but on top of solid blocks they can be used for decoration purposes as well. They look a little bit different in every game style and theme and can be used to change the feel of an area a little bit. If clown cars are blocked by 2 blocks on the top and the bottom, it's impossible for Mario to enter them. But while Mario isn't able to fly around in them, they can still be used as an interesting background object for airship or ghost house levels. Okay, back to gameplay ideas. Here we use big forms in clown cars to create an interesting obstacle for Mario to dodge. These forms will slowly follow Mario vertically until they hit the wall, and while these forms are pretty easy to dodge for a plumber, there is a lot of potential to create more dangerous enemies by stacking stuff on top of the form's head. But more on this later. Winged piranha plants usually flatter a little bit in the air after jumping. We can get rid of the flattering effect by putting a solid item on top of them and forcing them to flatter into a wall. This makes dodging these piranha plants way harder for Mario, but he survives. Idea number 30 as well. There isn't much going on in this idea. There are 3 forms sitting at the bottom and a simple corridor. But once Mario gets close to the 3rd form, the form suddenly jumps into the air and starts to chase Mario. While this appears to be pretty bad at first, it's actually really important for Mario, as this form's stone head is his only chance to make it to the exit door. The objective here is simple, reach the top of the tower alive. Sadly for Mario that's easier said than done as there are munchers on tracks chasing him. But if he stays concentrated and moves fast, he survives this idea as well. Here we use bullet blasters on top of springs again, but this time there is no one-way door and the bullet blasters are free to jump around. While the blasters seem to like this idea more than one before, Mario hates it, as the bullet blasters here can drop on his head causing lethal headache. If a cannon is attached to a block and the block gets destroyed, the cannon drops down. Mario is trapped in his room and he has to be careful of his surroundings, as there are cannons dropping down which can cause lethal headache as well. But if Mario is careful, the last explosion allows him to leave this idea. It appears as if Mario is making really good progress for all 40 ideas, as there are only 6 left. Sadly for Mario, the last 6 ideas are boss fights, and things are going to become more dangerous for him now. Here Mario has to find a key. The only option he has here is to run to the right where the key actually is. But there is not only the key there is a horrible creature as well. The form from before brought some friends and suddenly he is no harmless obstacle anymore. Suddenly he is a horrifying creature, biting, shooting and chasing our poor plumber. But Mario survives. The next boss fight Mario has to fight is against the great Koopa King himself. Bowser positioned himself on a wisely placed piranha plant, which helps him with his bad habit of walking around and allows him to focus entirely on shooting fireballs. Meanwhile, Mario brought a fire clown car and tries to dodge the dangerous magma balls, which Bowser is throwing in his way. But Mario is answering fire with fire. It takes Mario 40 hits to kill Bowser, while Bowser only needs to hit Mario once. That's a rigged game. But Mario wins it anyways. The next boss fight is easier for Plumber. All that he has to do is to survive in a room with a Spiny for about 10 seconds. What could possibly go wrong? Well, actually this Spiny is no ordinary Spiny, but the most dangerous killer Spiny the world has ever seen. It shoots fire and cannonballs endlessly in all directions. Luckily, Mario only has to survive until the Wiggler trigger ends, otherwise this would have probably been his end. But Mario still has to survive 3 boss fights against Bowser Jr. before he finally made it through the video. The first encounter with Bowser Jr. is rather easy. The heir to the Koopa throne sits in a cloud at the top and shoots towards Mario at the bottom. All that Mario needs to do is to jump at one of the springs at the right moment in order to reach the upper area. And touching Bowser Jr. there kills him and ends the first encounter against Bowser's son. But now things become more dangerous. Here Mario encounters Bowser Jr. in a dangerous arena. The floor is cycling up and down and there are cannons and chain jumps which are additional threats to Mario. Fighting here is really chaotic. Mario even picks up a part of the floor by accident. If this fight was in the SMP style, this wouldn't have happened. And now, let's take a look on the last fight Mario has to fight in this little video. In this arena, there are Spinies on tracks which shoot dangerous spikes into the arena. Bowser Jr. is immune to their ouching ability, but for Mario they are lethal. So there we have it, 40 Super Mario Maker ideas in roughly 800 seconds. I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. And maybe you currently feel like dividing 800 by 60 to find out if I'm lying and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye!